You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here, and man, we have another show lined up for y'all. This should drop between tomorrow and just before the Super Bowl game. So whoever you're going for, I hope your team wins. I know most people are just liking sports. They want to watch the game, eat some nachos, and just have some fun. But we have a returning guest, this time on video. We have Jake Stahl, and he's the creator of NeuroStrategy and CEO of Orchestrate, and he has a new book, Own the Room. So this is going to be a topic that I hope you can take something valuable away. First and foremost, Jake, welcome back to the show. You clear your calendar once again to give another gift to our listening audience and now viewers of the show. How are you doing today?
Trust me, the honor is all mine. I'm just flabbergasted that you had me back, and I truly appreciate it.
Well, I saw the email, and I said, you know what? Anyone who has this much passion in the email, they have to come back. So let's first start off, give us some updates for those who have never heard you before or seen you before. Of course, they're underneath the rock, but for those who are joining in and watching this show, give us a little bit of background of what you've been doing.
Sure. So I'm a 30-year sales trainer. I've done it across 6 countries, 47 states, and at last count, somewhere around 12,000 people. And the whole premise behind what I teach is I revolve it around behavioral psychology, social psychology, and neurolinguistic programming, which is what Tony Robbins has made blissfully famous for all of us practitioners. And I started teaching people about how to own the room, talking about presence and signal and what do you trigger in other people. And I've been doing that for the past 13 years. And a little while ago, I thought this would be something I should just put in a book. I should build it out and write it out. And I published it in December, and it did remarkably well. It hit number 1 in 5 categories, and it's been going blockbusters. I've been very fortunate. And we talk about this a lot also on my podcast called Own the Room with Jake Stahl.
Well, first, I want to say congratulations on that. That's pretty awesome. And second, that leads perfectly segue to my first question. You have a bold claim that most leaders lose the room in the first 5 seconds. For our audience, kind of explain what that actually means. And what are some ways you try to help them correct that?
Sure. So there's been numerous studies done, but I'll just point out one. They did a big study with college students, and they took a group and they put that group in front of a couple of film clips, and they were 2 to 10 seconds of a professor giving a talk, but the sound was off. So all they could do was just see the professor walking around. Then they took a second group of college students, and these were students that had that professor for 6 months and had sat through numerous of their lectures. And they gave both of those groups of college students a questionnaire, asking them to say personality traits that they noticed, and they little, boxes they could check off. And what they found was the people who saw the 2 to 10 second silent clips had almost identical evaluations as the people who had sat with that professor for 6 months. Now think how staggering that is. Those people evaluated somebody in pure silence in 2 to 10 seconds, and it matched the evaluation of people who've been with them for 6 months. That means the brain does something incredible called thin slicing. It looks at you and it makes an assumption about you, and it develops a set of characteristics about you in a frightfully short period of time. And that supports my book, which basically says that you've got 2 to 10 seconds to make an impression, whether you talk or not, so it better be good. And my attestation is that most people lose a room and decisions are made before their first words are spoken.
Man, that's powerful because, that's true. You can walk anywhere. You can be at a sports game, you at the Super Bowl. You can just feel people's energy before they even open their mouth, and kind of touch on that part because body language is very key as well.
Yeah, so there are some studies that say that body language is up to 80% of our communication. So if you put that in perspective, think about having a 10-minute phone call with a person that you love, and 8 minutes out of that 10 minutes is pure static. And then they want you to repeat back exactly what they said to you. It's just not possible. So in my book, I talk a lot about how do you read those signals and how do you understand what's taking place in a room that you may not be hearing, but is going to cause you to get ghosted later. So it's not often what we say, it's just how we show up.
And speaking of show up, your book pushes how to show up over what to say. What's the simplest way to explain that difference to someone who's always chasing the perfect script?
Yeah, and that's a great question because I am adamantly against scripts. But the best way to show up is by anticipating what is going to happen when you walk in that room. And what I mean by that is when we walk into a room, a lot of us get nervous energy and we pace and our breathing shifts and our timing shifts. So a lot of it is how are you preparing to even enter a conversation? And some of the things we talk about is grounding yourself, just feeling the earth under your feet, knowing that you're on solid footing. Box breathing, 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, and then hold for 4 seconds out. It does an amazing job of settling your nervous system. So prepping how you show up is as important as what you say when you get into the room.
If someone fixes just one thing, like invisible side of influence, if they can just fix one thing, what can they expect might be able to start changing and shifting in just how they experience people's reaction?
Yeah, and let me explain that by when you go to a concert. All of us have been to a concert at one point or another. And when you sit down in that audience, the group hasn't even come out yet, and you're like, oh man, I can't wait till they get here. You're all excited. That's what you can expect. I advocate in my book that if you change just a couple of things about the signals you send and the things you trigger in somebody else, the room will not just welcome you, but it will anticipate you. And we've all seen this, right? We've all seen that speaker that we never seen before, but we're dying to see them. That's all about how they prepped you before you even got there. And a very famous social psychologist called this persuasion. How much persuading did they do to you before they even showed up?
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, returning guest, Jake Stahl. Get a copy of his book, Own the Room. It's out right now, has tons of great reviews, and you're about to find out why, because you might be the next one to type the review. So my next question is, what are some of the common hidden signals that people miss in conversation, especially in tense moments?
Yeah, so, and this is a big one. I think we've always been taught, look for that certain thing. Look for the crossed arms. Look for a person sitting back in their chair. And this is exactly what that means. In the book, I talk about kind of unpacking that a little bit. And instead of trying to figure out what it means, just ask. So, you know what, Mr. Prospect, I saw you sit back in your chair. I probably said something that caused that reaction. Let's unpack that together. So it's not that you're a master of body language. It's that you just start to notice those things you didn't notice before. Somebody's tapping a pen. Somebody turns and looks away and they're staring at the door. Somebody gets distracted by a phone. Call it out. Gently, politely, but call it out. Because in this day and age, we're all yearning to be heard. And we just want our voices respected. But we don't always know how to bring that out in a conversation. But there's nothing that goes on in our head that our bodies doesn't tell for us. So what I found over the years is if I can call somebody out, hey, listen, I saw you start tapping your pen. Do me a favor. Let's poke holes in my theory together. people are more than willing to jump in. And I may start to hear things that they would have just taken back to their desk and used as an excuse to not ever reach out to me again.
You also show people that you can spot resistance before it surfaces. So what are some early signs of seeing resistance showing up in real time before anyone has that actual official no rejection?
Yeah, so they can be the simple things. Any type of body shift, knees shift towards the door, any place the body is pointing, that's where the person wants to be. So if they turn their body and shift and they're pointing towards the door, that's really where they want to be heading. Crossed arms is another big one. It doesn't always mean resistance. It could also mean they're putting a barrier between what you're saying and what they're hearing. Anytime they're distracted, focusing on a cell phone, multitasking, those are other things that could be indicating that you could be losing that moment. But I want to stress again that getting the moment back is remarkably easy. It's just inviting their input, allowing them to speak freely, and then taking the conversation from there. I'm firmly adamant that resistance is just the first line of them wanting to hear more.
That's good. That's good. When you think about recovery, because people are watching and listening, they're like, well, okay, that's great. But what about if I want to recover the room and get the opportunity to have a second chance, if you will? When you realize that you lost the room, what's a real-time reset that one can actually practice to get that attention back from the crowd?
Oh, this is so easy. It's be human. You would be amazed at how many times you'll be in a room that you're losing and you can say to them, listen, if we could do a reset, I came in nervous and hyped and full of energy, and this may have started off wrong. So let's just take a step or two back and let's try this again. People genuinely root for you when you're up at the front of a room. You're going to get the people that are knuckleheads that may not, but for the most part, people want you to succeed. And when you show you're human, they can start to relate to you better. Because remember, when you're in front of a room, you have a certain amount of clout, and people can see you as above them, which may already hinder it. And this was supported by an amazing study that they did, that they had a CEO give a talk, and he was a CEO of a Fortune 500, super well-versed, excellent at delivering his message, and people were allowed to watch that talk. The same group then saw another talk by a small business owner nobody had ever heard of, and the small business owner actually spilled coffee on himself as he was walking towards the podium. Overwhelmingly, people preferred the second talk, not because it was better, not because the content was more relevant, but because the person was human. They were just like them. So, want to recover a room? Be human, say what's on your mind, ask for a reset.
That's good, because that makes it super clear that, hey, everyone's going to make a mistake. So don't try to be that one person in the room that pretends that they are always perfect, always getting wins. There's going to be days you're going to strike out. There might be days you might even forget to even bring the bat out to do your job. You know, and that's when you know you have a bad day. And we all been there. But it's recovering from those bad days and learning from those bad days that sets you up for success. And when I say success, I'm talking about on your own terms. Because too many times we want to define it by how much money we have or how much influence we have. I mean, there's some people who have like 10 followers, but they have the most powerful things to talk about versus someone who has 10 million followers and they're just hot noise.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say to our audience when they pick up a book and learn about your framework? Because you have a framework out there. It's STRATA. What is that, and what are some things that people can learn from that framework?
Sure. So the framework is STRATA, and it stands for signal, trigger, reframe, anchor, transfer, and action. And it sounds remarkably complicated, but it actually takes place in seconds. And here's what it says basically. We all send a signal. Nervous, happy, confident. We all send a signal. We also need the ability to read the signal from a room. So the first part of STRATA says, recognize your signal and the signal other people are sending. The second is, what do you trigger when you make a comment? A great example, I had a call with a prospect not long ago. The woman was beautiful and her glasses and earrings matched like they were made in the same factory. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And so I complimented her. I said, God, your earrings and glasses are fantastic. Immediately, she started twirling her wedding ring, pulling it off, putting it back on. I had triggered something. So recognizing what you trigger in someone is extremely important. You may be triggering a way their dad talked to them 40 years ago. There's a lot of things you could be pulling up. So recognizing the trigger is important, and it's easy. It's detailed in the book. The third is reframe. So how do you step back away from what you just triggered? And a reframe is just taking one point of view and offering a different lens. And the best way to illustrate that is a doctor. A doctor says, Jake, you have a disease and there's a 20% mortality rate. The reframe on that is there's an 80% survival rate. So we're just taking the same data, putting it through a new lens. The third piece is anchoring. So how do I anchor what we talked about so that you will always think about it from an emotional sense? Transfer is how do I make the idea your idea? And then action is getting someone to take action. And if you do STRATA just right, which the book clearly lays out, action is just the logical end result of everything you talked about in your conversation. And this is really easy. People who have started using the book have said, now that I can see what you showed me, I can never see it again. And it's helped me immensely in meetings, even at home with the kids.
A lot of this is emphasizing what I hear a lot on the show, and that is being self-aware. Self-awareness, it allows you to stop assuming things and actually kind of look through the lens, if you will, of someone else who's watching you and say, oh, wow, I didn't realize that is how I was performing or how I was doing this or whatever. So being self-aware and everything you're talking about, it plays a huge role in order for you to position yourself to get better.
It does. And one thing I'd like to emphasize about the book is that a lot of people think, oh, he must have gone through a brainstorming session or this was through years of corporate experience or selling. I wrote this book because I was an addict for 2 years. I was hooked on opioids after a third knee surgery. I couldn't get off. I lost my wife, my house, my savings. I lost it all. And I had to figure out a way to get back into rooms I was pushed out of. So STRATA, the process I came up with, was my way of, it was survival. It was how do I get back into the lives of the people I love and back into the business world? And STRATA is what got me back there.
Also, when you think about presence, you kind of touched that earlier in the episode, but when you think about the difference between presence and charisma, you also talk about charisma in the book.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two?
So presence is how you show up. Charisma is how people take you. So a lot of people feel that charisma is, yeah, wow, woohoo, let's get going. But charisma is more about how you come across and the signals you put off to other people. So presence is how you are when you get there. Charisma is how you maintain people and maintain their attention. And again, they're both really similar and they're both managed by the signals you put off. But in my mind, they're very different things.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online. Make sure you go to IamRefocusedRadio.com, catch all the episodes. But right here, right now, we're talking to our returning guest, Jake Stahl. Get a copy of his book, Own the Room. You can get it right now, so don't waste any time. I mean, come on, Kindle ain't that much. Come on. I love Kindle because it's like when you have a lot of things to do and you have a lot on your list, just get a Kindle version. I mean, come on, like no excuse, guys. Real quick before we move on, I want everyone, like I always ask, please, one little assignment. If you enjoy this podcast, this episode, please share with one person. That's it. I'm not asking you to donate anything, not ask you to do anything. Just share the podcast with one person. It does wonders. So thank you so much for everyone who does that. Back to you, Jake. When you are thinking about how certain behavior can cause people to ghost each other. I mean, we are living in a really cutthroat time.
Oh, we are.
People will, I don't know you anymore. Kind of touch on how behaviors can trigger those ghosting activities.
Yeah, a lot of people don't want to be told things. Remember, we have such an extreme set of biases from us growing up. We're biased towards A, B, and C. We're conditioned to react D, E, and F to those biases. So each time we talk to a person, it's not about the words. It's about how those words make them feel. And the big thing about ghosting is many people feel talked to and they don't feel as though they were involved. I put a quote in the book, and I'm a big believer in this. We don't ever convince anybody of anything. They just eventually decide that it was their idea to begin with. So if I can communicate with anybody in a way that I make them feel that it was their idea, they owned it, they participated in it, their likelihood of ghosting me drops dramatically. Part number 2 is people are getting tired of being asked for things and getting nothing in return. Surveys is a big one. God, how many times do you get asked to fill out a survey in a day?
Crazy.
It is. And you're using it for marketing. You're using my quotes to sell your product. And yet I gave you valuable time out of my day. So another piece of not being ghosted is be a giver. So give them an article that applies to them. Send them something that they're going to find valuable. Send them a testimonial about your show. So give them something to show that they're valuable. And nobody spells this out better than Bob Berg in his The Go-Giver series. If you haven't read that, it is phenomenal. It talks about giving first and worrying about getting way down the road. So make things feel like it's the other person's idea and be a giver first. And getting ghosted is going to become a thing of the past for you.
When you think about when we try to pitch things, let's zoom in on that one even further. That is something that anyone who is trying to build something, they have no choice. They have to pitch something. I mean, if you're starting a show, if you're trying to get on the show, if you're building your business, if you're trying to work up the ladder in corporate, I mean, it involves you have to show up something. What do you have, man? What are your skill sets? What can you contribute to the team? What are you doing that's valuable? Why are you here, right? So my next question for you is, when you think about how we are pitching ourselves versus the presence that we have with others, what are some things we can do to better showcase our pitch? Because we can say one thing, but if it's not matching our presence, then they're going to spot that out pretty quickly.
So I'm going to give you 3 big things that you can do. Literally right after this show, you can do them. All right. So the first one is pitch to a pain point. I get my clients all the time saying, Jake, help me with my elevator pitch. Help me with my elevator prop. The best thing I can say about this is don't do it first. We want to get on the phone and we want to go, hey, I can do A, B, C, D, and E for you. Or we want to send a DM on LinkedIn and say, hey, I have 1,000,000 years experience and here's what I can do for you. Many people don't just say, so before we get started, what are the things that keep you up at night right now? As soon as they start to talk about that, tailor your pitch to their pain points. The main reason pitches don't land is because we're not pitching them to what they actually care about. So take the time to do that. And my biggest piece of advice there, here's the takeaway. When you meet a person for a first time, don't say anything about you or what you do for 2 to 5 minutes. Just ask questions. Resist the urge to talk you. So that's number 1. Number 2, this is going to sound really silly, but use the word because as often as you can. They did a huge study in a New York City public library called the Xerox study. And they asked interns to butt in line at the Xerox machine to make copies. As you can probably imagine, New Yorkers weren't thrilled about getting butted in line. So they said to the interns, ask them if you can butt in line and give a good reason. So they were told to say, can I jump in line to make copies because I'm double parked? Because my wife's holding dinner? Because I have to pick the kids up? And they found that there was a 60% compliance rate. Now, to me, that's not even remarkably impressive. Not even a little, because people are human. You give them a good reason, they'll probably let you in. But then they stepped it up and they said, jump in line, ask to make copies, but give them a nonsense reason. So they said, can I jump in line to make copies because I need to make copies? Dumb, right?
Yeah.
And yet they still had almost a 60% compliance rate. So the psychologists deduced that we're raised this way. You know, Dad, why is the sky blue? Mom, why don't fish drown? We're raised in a society of cause and effect. So if we hear the word because, we assume there's a good reason, so we just do it. So when you're pitching your services, always tell somebody why they should use you. You should use me because. That can increase your success rate by up to 60%.
That's great wisdom right there, because I'm using your tool. This is why this show was made. This show was made to showcase people like our guest, Jake, to share not only his story, but his actual experiences. Because without experiences, there's really no story. There's nothing to talk about. There's no funny moments. There's no hardship. And people don't go for that. I mean, if you look at any major YouTuber on YouTube, what's one thing they always talking about? Stories. They always are talking about stories, whether it's something with entertainment or if it's something profound, whatever it is, it's some kind of story. That's why we like songs. That's why we like music. That's why we like sports. Everything that you like that involves action or excitement, some shape and form, there's a story behind it.
Can I share one more? I can give your audience one more.
Yeah.
Differentiate between nouns and verbs. I know this sounds silly, but this is so important. So you hear the phrase, I love dogs versus I am a dog lover. The second one sounds like it's more, oh my God, he's always loved dogs. He will always love dogs. But instead of the verb, I love dogs, I'm a dog lover, makes sense. So if you're a marketer, you don't want to say, I do marketing. You want to say, I'm a marketing professional. And they actually bared this out in studies with a kindergarten group where they told the kids to clean up their toys. And as you can probably guess, it didn't work well. But when they said to the kids, become the teacher's helper, now you went from a verb to a noun, you made them part of a select group. They wanted to help. They went home at night and they said, I'm really excited. I'm a teacher's helper now. They did this with a voting block out west. Instead of saying to them, get out to vote, they said, do your civic responsibility and become a voter. It increased the response rate by 20%. So I don't paint, I'm a painter. I don't draw, I'm an artist. And the reverse is also true. So you will hear a lawyer say, my client's not a criminal, the noun. He just did a couple of bad things, verb. So when you're talking about what you do or how you do it, the difference between a noun and a verb can make all the difference in how someone perceives you. We
hear a lot of people throw out emotional intelligence. And for those who don't understand what that is, kind of break that down for us, because my next question for that, after that definition you give us, is how can we use that to get away from the defensiveness and sharpness of emotionally charged conversations?
Yeah, so one thing they do find, and they've studied this a lot, is that calm spreads faster than anxious. And what I mean by that is, if you get an anxious person in a crowd, their fear is going to spread. But if you get a calm person in a crowd, it's going to spread faster. So if you're in a heated conversation, it is so important for you to take a step back, slow your pace by anywhere from 10 to 15%, avoid any type of wavering in your voice, become more monotone and more stable, and give back a micro win to the other person. Mr. Prospect, I hear you're upset. What would you like the next step to be? Yeah. Give them back that micro control. And what you'll find is the more you do that, even just those 3 things repetitively, the calmer the situation's going to become. Because one thing they found is when people are super upset, they are letting emotion just run everything, and logic takes a complete back seat. So when you start to let that emotion calm down and logic come creeping back in, the conversation gets much better. So those 3 things, slow your pace, go more monotone, give the other person micro wins, is going to help reduce a confrontation quickly and a lot of times easily.
One thing, not to add something to your sauce there, but one thing I'll do is snap a picture of your sauce as a compliment. Is another way to think of this too is, if you have hot coffee or hot soup, what's one thing you want to do, right? You want to be careful. And that's what happens sometimes when we get too emotional, responding to something that just irked us, like ticked us off. And we have a whole laundry list of why we have every right to respond in any sharp, sarcastic, powerful way, and just boom, 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 just drop bombs everywhere, right? You want to be careful though, because like hot coffee gets dangerous. It can burn. Yeah. That's the same thing with our emotion. It can burn. It can hurt people. It can mess up relationships. It can cause people to ghost you. It can cause people to leave you. It can cause people to say, you know what? That's the last time that's happening. Yeah. So what do you say for those who, I mean, obviously you need help, professional help, get professional help, but what do you say to people in general speaking to watch how they get their emotions super high and allow to get the best of them in the moment?
Yeah, a lot of that, and I'm going to tell you, I like to stay in my lane here. Part of that is you need to understand how people view you. And the best way that I can picture this is, we've all had that cell phone call that we look at the phone number or we see the picture of the person come up on our phone and we go, oh, not today. I don't have time for you today. So the way other people view you is critical, and it's hard to make a second first impression. As a matter of fact, some psychologists believe it's almost impossible to make a second first impression. So just taking stock of that, and again, centering yourself, breathing, prepping yourself for the conversation. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't tell people how to de-escalate real time. But I can say a lot of times, at least becoming conscious of the fact that that's where it's going and taking a time out. One thing I recommend to all my clients is, if you feel something escalating on a Zoom or you're in a room and you feel it escalating, you're in control. Say, hey, listen, I need 2 minutes. Give me a second. Get off the Zoom, go away, breathe for a little bit, and then come back. Or if you're in the room with somebody and things are getting really heated, listen, I got to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Go to the bathroom, regroup, try to get yourself under control, and then head back to the scenario. So sometimes it's just separating yourself for a few minutes is going to be enough to help you come back and be level-headed.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio, watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Jake Stahl. Go get his book right now. On the Room is out and available for you all to get. make sure you get that Kindle, because I don't want to hear nothing about the price, because, like, just help a brother out. Once again, my last question before we wrap this up, and I think this is good. What call to action do you have for our viewers, your readers, when they read the book? Because this is not a type of book that you just kind of read once and, yeah, I don't ever have to read this again. It's kind of one of those tools that you put in your toolkit, and it's like, you know what? I might need a refresher down the road, because this is something that is like a guiding system to help me not just get better at what I'm doing, but to understand how I'm evolving with this process.
Yeah, my piece of advice, or the thing I say to people in the book, is that you don't actually start to sell your point of view or start to sell yourself or your idea or your product until the last two letters, transfer and action. STRA, the first several letters, is all you listening. It's just taking everything in, it's understanding the room and the people around you. So I know people have heard this a million times before, but let me be the million and first to say it. Listening is the key to all of this. If you think it's your verbiage that's selling you, it is not, almost ever. And I'll give you a real life scenario. I had a prospect come to me probably about a year ago, and we got on the phone, and for a half an hour, all she did was talk about herself and everything about her. I think if I spoke about a minute or a minute and a half, that probably would be overselling how much I talked. So I got off the phone, and my wife said, how'd it go? And I said, there's no way she's going to become a client, because she doesn't even know what I do. About 40 minutes later, I get an email from her, and it said, I just want you to know it wasn't lost on me that all you did was listen. When can we get started?
Wow.
It's a huge lesson that listening is everything. And, all the books, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Carnegie talks about that specifically. Yeah. One person said he was the most amazing conversationalist he was ever with, and he said, I don't think I said 5 words. So the takeaway from the book is listen to what's being said and not being said, and you will be thoroughly equipped to own that room.
Well, once again, listening to I Am Refocused Radio and watching this online, talking to Jake Stahl. Get a copy of the book. Everything will be in the show notes. So I'm going to have some fingers pointing like, don't miss this, don't miss this. But last and not least, I want you all who are watching and listening, I want to say thank you. All right. Thank you so much for supporting not just this platform, but most importantly, supporting the guests that are on the show. Because when you have value, trust me, people need it. So my words of wisdom for everyone watching and listening is, hey, reminder, you have something to offer too. Whatever you're hearing from Jake or any other person that comes on this show, like he said, transformation and action. If you don't act, if you don't move, then what are you doing? Imagine if I stay in the barbershop, I would be on the 12th floor right now doing this show. All that took action. I had to fail and have some funny moments along the way that I edit those out the highlight reel because those are too embarrassing. But you never have those funny stories if you don't move. So if you take one thing away from this show, this episode, get a copy of Jake's book. All right, that's the action part. And the next thing is share with a friend. And the last but not least thing, you do what you got to do to move. Whatever your dream is, I'm not trying to be spiritual and deep. I'm just trying to be real right now. This is a real moment. Like, if lightning only strike one more time, I'm going to be ready to catch that thing because it may not ever strike in this place ever again like this in this moment. That's you. Whatever your dream is, whatever you're trying to do. You trying to start that podcast, you trying to do that book, whatever it is, take that action. If you had anything else you can take from this episode, it's the very last one you ever listened to because I can't land a plane. Trust me, the fuel's getting low. I'm about to land it. Is you really have to believe that you can. Because until you can believe that, you're always going to sit around and wonder, when's my next shot? When's it going to be my turn? Don't be that person. And for that, No pressure, Jake. What do you want to say to our listeners and viewers before we check out?
I agree with everything you just said. And I think it's amazing. And it's why I listen to your show, because you are an amazing host and what you talk about here matters. And listen, if me, a former addict, can come out and do a book and start a business, anybody can do anything. Just grab onto it, run, and buy the book, because STRATA will help you get to wherever you want to go.
Once again, been having true honor having this amazing guest back again. I mean, you come back to I Am Refocused Radio, that's because you have some value. Trust me, I would never answer the email. I said, oh, you talking about that phone call? Yeah, there's some emails too that come in the inbox, and sometimes you're like, nah, who is this? Who is this? No, but when I saw your name, I was like, oh shoot, let me read this. Yeah, and that's powerful, because if you ever want to be valuable, it's just like the client you talk about where she talked 10,000 words and you only spoke maybe 3 words, but she emailed you back. See, I feel, we can probably talk about this in another show, but I feel like when people are heard, there's a sense of security. So they not just trust the person, but they look forward to that connection with that other person, because they know there is something about that person that they can be heard, they can be seen, and that's powerful right there. But that's a whole nother show, so I won't open the can of worms. But quick last thing, if people want to stay in touch with you, what's the best website or best social media platform they can watch your work?
Yeah, so they can follow me as Own the Room with Jake Stahl on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. You can listen to my podcast, Own the Room with Jake Stahl. It's on Spotify and Apple and anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you want to reach me, my website is thejakestahl.com. And you can also catch me on LinkedIn. There's a million Jake Stahls on LinkedIn, but I am the CEO of Orchestrate, so you can find me that way. And if you're watching me, I'm the only Jake Stahl that looks like me.
I was going to say, you're not Jake from State Farm?
Oh, my God. I hear that at least once a day.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that there. But once again, get a copy of Jake's book, Own the Room. Everything's going to be in the show notes. Like always, sir, I want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you.